I don't know if you guys do this too, but I look back at old art a lot of the time and I kind of study myself. And one of the things that I noticed is that I don't do a lot of detailed things. A lot of the time it's very laid out in front of your face. Honestly, everything is right there on the page. In other words, it feels like it's not a lot to look at. And I wanted to kind of do something different to combat that. So hi everyone, I'm Ward and welcome to my channel Ward Draws a Lot, and this week we're gonna try and defeat the curse of being very plain. Even when I was younger, I always looked at artwork that was super complex and detailed and super hyper focused on every little thing, and it was always so cool to look at. And as I've grown, I realized that I didn't I didn't get any of that. Like, the traits that I really wanted to capture growing up, I kind of don't have them to a degree, right? And detail was one of those traits that I really wanted. I feel like a lot of artists do, though, from what I've seen, is a lot of the time artists really admire when another artist can do heavy amounts of detail into one piece and fit as much as possible into it. It's incredible to look at. It's something visually pleasing to the eye to find something new constantly when you're looking at it, or to find something of interest when you're looking at the art piece. So hopefully I get to actually, start doing that. I feel like there's a lot of little ways to convey detail within art, and a lot of the time I feel is with clothing. Now, here's where my issue comes in, right? I don't like drawing clothes on a lot of male characters. For, no particular reason, of course, no particulars. But a lot of the time, from what I see, is that detail and clothing go together very well, because you can make it very ornate, right? You can put a lot of jewelry, a lot of designs, laces, textures. There's so much you could do when you play around with clothing when it comes to a character or a person in an art piece. And I think that's what really helps kind of convey the look, where you can look at the art piece and it's just filled to the brim with something, right? Then I come in and draw, dudes half naked. So that doesn't really work well together. So I'm going to have to start to kind of rethink how I guess draw characters and kind of add more to them instead of, putting less. Which, I don't mind putting less, but I got my hands in the air. I'll admit it. I like drawing them half naked. What can I do? What can I do? I got my hands behind my back. Don't worry about it. So I'm gonna have to try and think about actually creating detailed clothing pieces for these characters, especially the guys. With girls, I'm more likely to create full-length outfits and give them accessories and all the stuff, because I feel like it's easier to play around with women's outfits. But and now another issue arises where I don't draw women as often, and there's no particular reason why. Genuinely, I enjoy and like drawing them, but there's something about drawing men that just makes my brain go ooga booga. So I have to put them on the page. But realistically, if I can try and translate that idea of doing these kinds of ornate clothings onto the male characters that I decide not to dress, then I think something can come from that. But what I decided to do when it comes to this drawing right here, because obviously he is half naked, I decided to do the details in the coloring as much as humanly possible. And let me explain. So whenever I think of an art piece, I think of all of the things that created into that piece. So not only do we have our details, we have the background, we have the shading, the light composition, and the little things that kind of attach to the character themselves to create the personality of that character. I'll explain it through, oh my god, my voice. I've re-recorded this part 3 times just because my voice keeps fucking up. I think I'm low-key going into Wade Draws a Lot again. I think I'm getting sick, dude. Okay, I got something to drink. My voice is okay right now. So, as I was trying to say before my voice box came in and rudely interrupted me, I'm going to convey what I was trying to say with details from the coloring by using his skin as an example. Depending on how lights and shadows hit skin, it can really emphasize shape. Let's take his massive booba, for example, here. So it's obviously very rounded, and through the conveying of the shadows and the, I guess, highlights, you could say, that's what creates the shape and the detail of it actually looking larger. Not only that, but when you look at the bicep right next to it, you could tell it's much more round or circular, and that's because it is flexing. When the muscle is flexing, it's going to look rounder, especially when you're sitting at that angle, so it's going to look like they're basically just right next to each other. The shoulder, which sadly you can't see as I'm explaining right now, is going to look lighter because it is on a different, you could say, plane in comparison, because it's not as round as the breast or the bicep would be in this case. So through little detailings of color can you bring out those big details on the bigger picture. Same thing with like his abs, for example. The way the shadows and the light kind of hit it, give it the pop that it needs to be to look like its shape has taken form, which creates another sense of detail. Anatomy on its own can be quite detailed and specific. It just has to be studied and done properly. I guess it's kind of like, what's his fucking name? Oh my god, like Michelangelo, right? I'm not comparing myself to him, chill out. But if you look at a lot of his works, a lot of them do have basically nude models, right? But they still look super detailed and super, like, interesting to look at. And that's because he studied anatomy so much that he knew practically every single muscle in the human body. So from knowing the muscular structure of the human body, he was able to create these incredible little details that you wouldn't even like think to notice. And that is simply because his anatomy was so good that he could create any kind of contortion with the body and make it look absolutely incredible. Like it's insane how many hours of practice this guy must have done to get to this level. And you can tell from looking at his work and looking at his statues or his paintings and seeing how, again, these characters don't have barely any clothing or things that would have to help create detail, but instead created detail out of the human body itself. I think about how much love he actually must have had for the human body and appreciation for it to learn every single fiber that he could in order to create these pieces. Sometimes when you're so enamored by something, you engulf your being into it and then eventually become that thing. You know what I mean? Like he became the human body that he was trying to study and create art of. Of course, he was still good with his use of fabrics in art and the way he did his techniques and everything like that. But from what I see is the common factor within Michelangelo's work, for example, is just the anatomy on its own is like a hard carry. Like you could literally look at any of his pieces and see his anatomical work, and you can tell that that's like the main thing he loves to do. So that's what I'm trying to get at when I say that sometimes the anatomy or the body can speak for itself when it comes to detail within a drawing. I just have to put that in more. So I don't necessarily need to do clothing as a, I guess, detail clutch, when if I just study anatomy enough, then I can use that as a sense of detail on its own. But that doesn't mean that I'm not going to study the clothing pieces and different fabrics and stuff like that, because of course I am. Like, I can't draw every character half naked, although that's not a bad idea. But you know, I can't do that. So yeah, I'm gonna try and do more detail-oriented things like that. When it comes to this piece, though, I tried fitting in more things that are centered around the background and the surrounding pieces around the character to try and give not only him some more personality, but kind of set the vibe or the tone within the room. So I really wanted to do something around, I guess, kind of royalty. I'm telling myself that I don't think I had any inspiration when I was drawing this, but I had Anastasia on in the background and it was free on YouTube and I immediately clicked it. And as I was watching, of course, the theme of royalty kind of popped up. So that's kind of what happened. I'm not gonna lie. But like, from when I started the drawing to where it ended, I didn't expect it to become this. At first, I was just putting the pencil down on the paper. I'm very much pro just do the drawing. You don't have to think beforehand, because sometimes thinking hurts the process. That's weird to say, but it really does do that for me, because a lot of the time I'll have days where I'm like, all right, time to draw. Now what do I draw? And then I sit there forever and be like, I don't know, what about this? And I'm like, no, I'm not feeling that. So sometimes it's just good to start doodling the character and the idea just kind of pops up. So that's what I like doing personally. I did definitely think of like how royalty would have like these kinds of frames in the room, large mirrors, random decorations, which is why I kind of put like this green bowl in this little window kind of part behind the character. When it came to what I really wanted in the piece, gold was the main thing that screamed out to me. And I made sure to pick a gold that wasn't going to, I guess, tone the piece down too much. I wanted to do a greeny kind of gold, but not too green. I know that sounds like weird, like how can it get too green? But I have 3 different markers, or 2 different paint markers, and then 1 gel pen for gold, and 2 of the markers, one of them was too dark or too green and too dark. This one was a little bit better though. This one was the Artex gold marker, and I felt like it was just the right tone of gold for me to use for this piece. The green undertone works well. Why? Because the character is surrounded by red, so it helps kind of create almost like a neutral look to it, because now there's not too much going on in terms of those colors. I did complement a lot of this piece with green because there was so much red going on, and originally I wasn't going to do that, but the more I sat there and thought about it, I was like, if I want to help create visual details, I'm going to have to be smarter with how I play with color. So I can't make the jeweling on the character red, because it's just going to fade in with the rest of the pillows behind him. Even though he's wearing them on his body, it's not going to stand out enough. So I decided to go with a green emeraldy kind of color, because not only does that kind of give him his own little personality, like, hey, he likes green or green jewelry, but it also creates a visually pleasing effect to the eye. That's like, oh look, hey, there's green jewelry and then the red pillows behind him, so it helps create a nice little color wheel effect thing going on, you know? I did use 2 different types of gold for the piece, so we had a little bit more differentiation. So the frames on the walls were the Artex kind of gold, but this one is the Uniball Signal gold, which is more of a true gold in my opinion. It has very little to no green tones in there, so it's just a very bright metallic gold, and I decided to use that for the fringes of the pillow, so it helped give it a very nice design around it. Whenever I think of like fancy pillows, that's the first thing that comes to mind, is the gold like tassels and the fringes on it. And I decided to give as many of the pillows fringes as possible, but at the same time not making it like, I guess, interact too much with the character, because I wanted them in the background. That same gold was used to do his jewelry though, and I think that it complemented his skin tone very nicely. So yeah, I was pretty happy with how that one came out. For the frame on the wall, I couldn't just leave it blank, but I also had no idea what to fill it with, so I looked through my green washi tape sheets, and I found 2 of them that were kind of, I guess, in a green field with white flowers, so I put that there and cut it up and made it a little bit more abstract, so it just had some kind of dynamicism within the little frame and kind of brings a little bit more mixed media to the piece. I like adding different mixed medias, as you could tell from the metallic golds, so the washi tape added there was just a nice little touch. When it came to lining, I really wanted to be careful here. I didn't want to use too big of a liner because I have recently been kind of regretting using too thick of a liner. I feel like it takes away a lot from the character. I like it, I really do, and sometimes I feel like it's necessary, but for this piece, I really wanted to make sure that the detailing was more so speaking for itself through the coloring, like I was saying earlier. But some things definitely needed some line art, like especially like his face, where a lot of those details were kind of lost within the blending, so I kind of brought them back with the liner. A lot of the stuff that I made sure to leave without the line art is like the pillows, because I wanted it to look soft enough behind him, and on top of that, line art I feel is a way to bring something more to attention to the screen or to the paper or to whatever you're looking at art with, or if it's in front of you. It's if you line something compared to everything else, that thing is now standing out or is pushed forward a little bit more because there's something on the outside of it. This line art I think was a dark brown or sepia or something, but because it's so dark it kind of reads black on the page, but when it's up against the gold it reads more brown, so it depends I guess on where it's placed. But I liked that better than using an entire black liner, because black I feel like would have been a little too harsh. Overall though, I think that I managed to do a good amount of details within his body and the shading of the pillows, along with the little fringes and some accessories that he's got. I love his little cat on the pillow. It's so cute. I think that adds a nice little touch of personality there too, like he's a cat person. And I tried what I could with detail, and I'm hoping to get even better at it eventually. I like how it's centered around him, mostly towards the left side of the drawing, and I really think that creates a nice dynamic in the piece. So yeah, thanks for watching, and remember I love you. Bye!